here in warm Kapolei.
Yeah, we're nice weather.
Well, glad to see a lot of familiar faces. Thank you for your support in KupunaWiki. As you know, KupunaWiki is Hawaii's senior resource. We help families with connecting to local professionals in these 5 areas that we focus in. And so today we're going to focus on health, and we have Debbie with Gym Guys. She's the owner of Gym Guys, who's going to be teaching us how to stay fit for life. And so,
Come on in.
Yeah, come on in. Yeah. So today we have even residents here that's going to join us as well. So it's going to be a great class. But without further ado, Debbie.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So let me ask you, it sounds like you guys follow a lot of the KupunaWiki education programs. What were you expecting? I've seen you before at them, so some of what I'm saying may be familiar to you. What were you looking for when you came here? Anything in particular when you read the topic matter? What were you expecting? Or were you just coming to listen? The only reason I say this,
They just
only
miss
have
us.
like 30 to 45 minutes, and a lot of what I talk about usually takes me about at least an hour. So I want to make sure I cover if there was something in specific that you were interested in. Anybody?
Yeah, no worries.
Well, my husband is really interested in starting to exercise.
Yes.
Yes. Just a little interest. So I'm trying to.
Encourage.
Yes.
Okay, motivate him to
Yeah.
take that next step.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, the first thing I start out with nowadays is the importance of understanding what sitting does to us. So if you look at a lot of the research that's out there right now, they're really focusing on the hazards of sitting, and they're actually calling it a risk factor. Some people are actually making brochures that are saying sitting is the new smoking. And the reason being is because we sit so much, right? The average American sits maybe between 6.5 to 10 hours a day. The average person probably sits at least 30 minutes a shot before you get up and do something. And that's all really affecting our health. I mean, to the point where they've actually said that it's increasing our mortality rates.
Oh, gee.
There are some studies that say even if you exercise regularly, it may not necessarily negate the risk factor of sitting. So one of the things that I am trying to advocate for with everyone that I talk to is if you sit for 30 minutes or longer, make sure you stand up and move around. Some of the studies are saying standing up alone just isn't enough. You gotta stomp your feet, stretch, move around, do something physical. So set a timer. Between commercials, just get up and move. Moving alone is going to help improve your metabolism. When you sit for 30 minutes or longer, your metabolism drops. You increase your blood sugar and blood lipids. You actually can cause more metabolic disorders. Metabolic disorders are where people have kind of a big waist, they're higher risk for diabetes, cardiovascular disease. So all of those things go up when you sit for too long. And right now, we know that we live in a society that's very technically oriented, so we do tend to sit a lot, you know. As you get older, one of the things that happens is, how many of you are concerned about falling, or you feel you're unsteady when you get up off your feet? Okay, we all fall or lose our balance or stumble at some point, but as you get older, even for me, I just made 60 this year. So, like I said, a baby. Now, I get partially more senior discounts. I'm a little bit happier about that. But as you get older, we get osteoporotic. You know, our bones get weaker. What strengthens our bones? How do we make bones stronger? Do you know? What makes our bones stronger?
Exercise.
Exercise, but why does resisted exercise? The only way we can actually strengthen bone is to stress it. So bone rolls in the direction of stress. It lays down new bone cell when it feels stress. So you have to be weight bearing, or you've got to be giving it some resistance in order for bone to lay down new cells. And so if you're sitting or you're exercising sitting down, probably that's not enough stress on your bones to really build up those bone cells. Okay? So that's why walking is good, because that is a weight-bearing exercise, right? So we all are going to get osteoporotic unless we've got really good genes, and for some reason we drink a lot of milk for calcium. So when you get older, when you fall, you're at higher risk for fracturing something. And that's the danger of falls. It's not so much the fall itself. We're going to fall. But when you fall, the scary part is what's going to happen afterwards. According to the Department of Health in Hawaii, falls are the leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injuries. 1 in 4 seniors 65 and over are going to fall. Of those who fall and end up in the emergency room, 35% never are able to go home for whatever reason, whether it's they get placed or they don't make it, but 35% don't go home. That's a scary number, okay? So that's why we want to prevent falls, and that's why exercise is so important. One of the things I also emphasize is, what is a significant component to keeping us from falling, in addition to having strong bones and strong muscles? What do we need to not fall? Balance, okay? And as we get older, do we do more activities that challenge our balance? Are we getting out there and jumping around and running upstairs? Are we doing those kinds of things? No, so when do we practice balance, right? How often do you stand on one leg and, jiggle around, maybe do a dance? Very rarely. So we don't exercise that skill. Balance is a skill. If we don't exercise it and use it, we are going to lose it. And so a lot of times I just ask people, if you're not sure, just get behind a chair and stand on one leg. How long can you stand? A lot of people go, oh, I can do that. And then they go, oh, okay, it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. All right, try the other leg. Oh, this one's even worse, because we always start with the leg that we think we're going to stand good on, right? Then you go to the other legs and oh, this is even harder. So can you stand there for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds? We want you to be able to stand there for at least 30 seconds comfortably. The reason for that is when you walk, that's a single leg stance, right? When you take a step, one foot has to come up. What happens if you take that step and then all of a sudden someone calls you, turn around and you look and you're on one leg? Are you going to be able to recover from that? Let's say you're walking and someone in the mall and someone accidentally bumps into you. Are you going to be able to recover from that? You walk around a table and you didn't realize it was so close. You go, whoa, you're on one leg. Can you recover from that? Those are the kinds of things that we want you to think about. It's not just about can you stand on one leg. The whole purpose is because we don't want you to fall. And falls don't typically occur when we plan them, right? It's not like, okay, I'm going to be good today and I'm not going to fall. Falls just happen. It's usually when we're not thinking, we're not paying attention. So we want the body to be really prepared for how we're going to respond should that unforeseen situation come up where you lose your balance. Okay, so that's why exercise is important, not only for the sake of exercise, but for safety for seniors, because we want to prevent those falls. The American College of Sports Medicine puts out numbers of how much you should exercise. Okay, well, you've all heard those numbers, right? 150 minutes a week, and they say, oh, that's not much. That's just 30 minutes of walking every single day. Now, even if you're a senior and you're retired, sometimes trying to find that 30 minutes to go out and walk nonstop, it's not that easy, right? Things come up, you got doctor's appointments, friends are calling, you got your schedules at the facility, children are telling you, do this, do that. You got busy schedules sometimes. You know, it may not be the same as it was when you were working, but it's still a busy schedule. So it seems like it's overwhelming, right? Not only that, in order to get the cardiovascular benefit, that means that in order so that it helps you with your endurance, it strengthens your heart, it's not just a casual walk, it's a moderately vigorous walk, okay, or moderately intense, meaning you're walking fast enough that it's difficult to talk. You can talk, but it's difficult, okay? You're going to be breathing a little bit harder. Now, how many of us walk at that pace 5 times a week for 30 minutes? right? I mean, I just know that we live in a busy society and that's tough. So that's why sometimes it's better to just try to reduce the hazards as much as possible, and when you can, exercise in a way that you're getting the most benefit for your heart and the rest of your muscles. So that's one of the things that we do with our interval training. Have you all heard of high intensity interval training? Okay. It's being touted as one of the most effective ways, both for strength training as well as cardiovascular conditioning. Now when I talk about cardiovascular conditioning, I'm referencing two things. I believe that it really does make a difference that you think about it from two perspectives. So the cardiologists, they're talking about your heart, okay? Your heart is a muscle. And they always talk about target heart rate. You know, you should be within 80% of your target heart rate in order to get that conditioning. So if you're, let's say you're 80 years old, they take the number 220, they minus 80 from that, and that gives you what, 140? So 140 is your maximum heart rate. 80% of that is where you should be exercising. Your heart rate should be go up to that level in order to get that cardiovascular conditioning. Okay, so you want to get up to that target level, but sometimes it's not that easy to get up there and maintain it, right? What happens with interval training is that you don't have to maintain it for 30 minutes, you know, beyond that treadmill, really pushing yourself on that elliptical. High intensity interval training allows you to go really hard for you. High is relative for each of us, to where your heart is now pounding, not above your maximum, but within that target range. It's beating pretty fast, but it might be up there for, let's say, 30 seconds for you when you first start out. And you've got someone there kind of helping you, come on, let's go, keep it. Because I know when I used to get on that elliptical before, when I first started out, just doing 1 minute was hard. I get on there and I was like, oh, this is hard. And I was like, okay, I'm stopping. You know, it's hard unless you've got someone there with you saying, oh, come on, let's keep going. So 30 seconds, your heart rate is up there, then you have a short period of recovery, and then you get back up there again, and you do another 30 seconds of as hard as you can, and then you have your recovery. They say that that type of exercise really boosts your metabolism and keeps your metabolism going for 24 to 48 hours after your workout is done. So not only are you continuing to, now some of you don't need to burn calories, but a lot of our seniors, as they get older and they get more sedentary, they do want to burn off a little more fat. Not a whole lot, because you want the reserves in case you're sick, but you know, you want to be able to eat the things that you like to eat, and yet you know it's hard to get out there, so that's why that kind of exercise sometimes is good. But it also has to be safe. So another thing I also talk about is, when you exercise, it's important to look at your form. Posture is really critical. So trainers, they talk about form. My education was as an occupational therapist, so I talk about posture and body mechanics. And most of us aren't even aware of what our posture is. You know, if I ask you to stand up and say, what is your posture like? Most of us would probably say, it's fair. You know, some of us might say, oh, I know it's bad. You know, very few of us say, oh, it's great. You know, because nobody has perfect posture, especially not all the time. You know, a lot of people say, oh, you have such good posture. Well, my posture's not that great. In all honesty, it's not. My head always comes forward, my right shoulder always comes up, my right hip tends to go up. There are a lot of things that I do that are not right, so all day long, I'm constantly having to correct. You know, there are a lot of times when I'm sitting and I'm not paying attention, and I'm leaning to one side, my back is rounded, my legs are crossed. You know, why is all that bad for you? What's bad about not paying attention to our posture? Why do you think it's harmful for us? Anybody? Brandon, feel free.
Because it's gonna offset where you carry your weight.
I'm glad he remembers. I've had this talk with him at least 5 times now with all the presentations as a guest. So I'm glad he was listening. Yes. So what we're concerned about are those muscle and ligament imbalances. So what happens is if you constantly stand on one leg or carry a bag on one side or tilt your head to one direction, what it does is it causes the muscles to shorten down on one side and stretch out on the other side. So the muscles on both sides end up getting weak because one's stretched out, so it's at a leveraging wise, it's at a disadvantage. The other one gets short, so to try to turn to this side, it's really tight, so you really have to fight against it. So eventually gravity's just going to give into it. As you develop these imbalances, when you're walking and you get older, now that you're not in balance, you're going to be thrown off when you walk, right? To walk balanced, your body has to be symmetrical and your center of gravity over your center. But now what happens if your shoulders have come forward and your head has come forward? Now my center of gravity is forward. You've gotten used to that, so then when your weight is forward, that feels comfortable for you, but that may not be the best position for you because we know we're afraid of falling forward, right? But you don't know how to go back because you're also afraid of falling backwards. So in order to get your center back, you almost have to feel abnormal, okay? So when I tell people we all stand up and we look at each other, so since we're in a circle, let's all stand up and let's just kind of take a look at each other, all right? I know it's a little embarrassing, but let's stand up, and I want you to stand the way you just would comfortably stand. Don't try to correct your posture, just stand the way. We're just all going to stand there and feel relaxed. Okay, so we can start with me, all right? You can look at me and you can tell me, what do you see that's not symmetrical?
Left shoulder.
Yeah.
My left shoulder, remember I told you my right shoulder, because I used to carry a bag like this side always comes up for me. Plus I use a mouse, so my shoulder's always up, and this side always gets tightened. I get shoulder spasms, okay? So that side's up. Okay, what about my head?
Looks okay to me.
Okay, there's a handout. I don't know if you all grabbed it, but it was, it's got pictures of spine on it. So, good posture, okay, is ears over the shoulders, over the hips, through the ankles, okay? How many of you, when you're standing, have your knees locked right now? Almost, except for you, sir, almost everyone looks like their knees are locked. Maybe you're okay too. You don't look like your knees are locked. But we tend to lock our knees. Do you know why?
Stand up straight.
Okay, so a lot of people say, oh, it's to be stable and strong, right? To stand up straight and be stable. But, okay, when your knees are locked, you can be my model. Okay. So go ahead and lock, stand face forward, lock your knees. Okay, now, keep them locked. All right, now, if I bump you, you go. So, if I bump you,
I'm heavy down here, so.
okay. But backwards he goes. All right. Go ahead and now go ahead and bend slightly, just slightly. Now backwards I push. You don't go, right? You're pretty stable. So the reason we lock our knees is because it's a physical lock. When you lock the knees, you don't activate any muscles, right? Not tiring. So when you're standing in line, it's a lot easier to just kind of stand with your knees locked because you don't have to use any muscles. Now go ahead and loosen your knees up just slightly. You don't have to bend them, but just loosen them so that you got to keep them slightly bent. You kind of feel your muscles have to hold you in place, right? Okay, so you're using your muscles. So one reason that you want to unlock your knees is because you want to activate your muscles. You don't want your muscles to be lazy and not get used. Okay, so now you're helping to strengthen your muscles. The other thing is like what I was showing with Andrew is when your knees are bent, you know, if someone were to bump into you, you know, you can kind of give. Just try it with your knees straight, okay? Think of yourself, if you were straight and someone was to just kind of tap on you, it's like, oh, kind of unsteady. I can't do anything. My knees are locked. I'm stuck. Versus if your knees are slightly bent and some goes, you can kind of shift back and forth, right? But when your knees are locked, you can't do that. So that's why from a safety standpoint as well, you want to always practice unlocking your knees. So you stand in line, that's a typical place where people lock their knees. Standing at the counter, standing in line. Think of it, every time you're doing it, just think, okay, are my knees locked? Oh, let's unlock. Consciously, you see each other, if you're a couple, or mother and daughter, or father and whatever. You see each other every day, you see yourself, someone locking their knees, tell them to unlock it. Because the more it's brought to our attention, the more conscious we are, the more we can correct it, okay? So we want to get that muscle activation. The other thing that happens when we lock our knees is, okay, so you see what happens to my low back? So when I lock my knees and stand, what happens to this area right here? I'm kind of going backwards this way, right? And then in order for me not to fall backwards, the top of my body has to kind of come forward. So I'm now counterbalancing it. That's not the way our spines are designed. Our spines are designed to have a slight curve in the low back, right? So when you lock your knees, you then start to throw your spine out of alignment. Or actually, you just throw your center of gravity off because now everything is a little bit backwards. So you kind of sometimes see people, older people that walk like this, right? Or people that walk like this, you know? Some of it is because they've gotten so used to their hips being back here, and in order to get their balance, they got to shift themselves forward. And so that's what they're doing. You don't realize it. It happens very gradually. Okay. So now look around the room. We don't have to comment, but what do you see? Do you see anybody in this position or this position? I'm exaggerating, okay? So with the shoulders forward. The other thing is, everyone put your hands down. Just relax your hands, okay? Oh, you guys are all pretty good. Okay, so what position is your palms in? Look at everybody standing here. What direction is your palms facing? Now, you guys are standing like, how many of you actually stand like this when you're at rest? You tell me. You're standing in line. You stand like this with your hands at your side. Okay, so relax your hands. Just stand the way you would normally stand if you're standing in line. And tell me, what direction is your palm facing?
Kind of back.
Kind of backwards, right? What does that mean to your shoulder? If my hands
forward.
are, it means my shoulders are having to round forward. So again, they always talk about forward head, rounded shoulders. The head comes down. The head weighs about 9 or 10 pounds on most people. The head starts to come forward. It starts to shift everything forward. So then your neck comes forward, your shoulders come forward, and then your hands start to turn in. So now you've got that rounded shoulder. Why is that so bad? Well, your pec muscles start to get tight, right? So if you were to rotate out and pull it back, you feel it's tight, right? And you almost feel like, ooh, I feel like I'm sticking my chest out. But watch, if I do it and I just, do I look like I'm sticking my chest out? No, all I'm doing is externally rotating. So there's some exercise you can do by just doing a wall sit. You just pull yourself to get into that alignment. But get in front of a mirror and just practice that. Turning it up. Experiencing what does it feel like when you rotate your shoulders out. Tuck your head back so that it's over your ears are over your shoulders. Just even starting with that alone. What does that feel like? Okay? Try to memorize it. And then because you have to do it in front of the mirror to make sure you're doing it right. And then when you feel like you've got it, okay, then you got to close your eyes, move around, and see if you can recreate it and open your eyes and make sure that you got it right. Because if you can't recognize what good posture is or what correct alignment is, you can't correct for it, right? So those are some of the things. Look at the direction of people's hands. If their hands are forward, then you know they're internally rotated. The other thing that's bad about that is when your hands are internally rotated and you try to raise up, it's a lot harder to go up high. Okay, so when it's down, you go up and you get stuck, right? At a certain point, you get stuck. Your arm doesn't go. But now you externally rotate, or go to neutral with your thumb up. Look how much farther your arm can go, right? So that's why you want to be able to. If you are rotated this way and you're jamming your shoulder up, you're probably damaging your rotator cuff muscles and the tendons and ligaments, especially if you're doing repetitive activities. Okay? So, you can sit down. So, posture. What's so important about posture? Why should you understand it and try to stay in decent posture most of the time? What are you trying to prevent? You want to try to prevent muscle imbalances, spinal imbalances, and falls. I mean, posture is going to, if poor posture is going to throw off your balance eventually. You may not feel it because it happens so gradually. It happens over a long period of time. for years of bad habits. So when you're sitting, all right, do you know what good sitting posture would feel like? Or how to get into a good sitting posture? If you know you're going to be sitting for a prolonged period of time, what do you want to do? We talked about the normal curves, right? You want to try to maintain that curve in your low back. You want to make sure that the shoulders are going to be opening up. So if you're sitting, the best way to do that is push your hips as far back. And for short people, it's really hard when you have high chairs because your feet don't touch the ground. But you want to push yourself as far back so that you kind of feel that cushion pushing into your back, and then just lean backwards. Let your shoulders drop back. So when you do that, again, I'm not saying you have to sit there all the time, but just every once in a while, just push yourself, get into it, just to stretch those muscles out so they're not constantly sitting in this position. The other thing a lot of people do is they just kind of relax their legs. Well, when you relax your legs, most people, when I was growing up, I was kind of a tomboy. My parents were always telling me, close your legs, close your legs. So, I naturally go, oh. But I always tell people, pull your knees in. And the reason for that is because, again, if you stretch your ligaments out this way constantly, when you walk, you're going to be walking probably with your foot out a little bit more. What we want is we want these muscles to be able to pull up this way, so we want the leg to be able to lift up, go down, and go straight, so that you hit with everything in alignment. Because when you walk, there's a lot of stress that's placed on your joints. And if they're not all aligned, again, that's going to be meaning a lot of extra forces are being placed on the joints. And what are we all prone to with our joints? Arthritis, right? Everyone has arthritis, osteoarthritis. By the time you hit the age of 20, everything that you do, you've already started to wear down your joints. It's just you're young and you don't feel it. But when you get to your 40s and your 50s, that's when, I've been sitting too long. Okay. And then you can walk. Or you stand up and you got to stretch out a little before you take that first step, or, okay, that's a little sore. We all experience a little bit of that. I mean, there's some people that are so good at being active and stretching out and work that they don't feel anything when they get older. But the average person, when you first get out of bed, there is going to be a little bit of stiffness. Part of that is because the joints, when you're at rest, the fluids start to cool down. They get a little bit thicker. There's less fluids in the joint capsule as we get older, less lubrication, so it has to warm up a little before the joints move really freely. The other thing that happens is, when you stop moving, the way the joints get their nutrition is through that fluid and that movement so that it can soak up its nutrition through that fluid. If you sit a lot, there's not that movement, it's not really able to absorb a lot of that. So again, that's when our joints start to wear down as well. So, activity, important. Exercise is a plus. Exercise does not have to mean getting out of height. I tell people, okay, if you really are not the exercise type, then just do something around the house. So I tell people, everybody has a laundry detergent bottle, right? Okay, so when I'm standing here, what muscles am I working out?
Back.
My back muscles have to hold me up, right? My arm has to hold it, otherwise it's just, so my shoulder has to hold this arm up, otherwise it's going to go down. And if I rotate out, I'm getting my rotator cuff muscles that need to hold my shoulder back in place. What about my stomach muscles? My obliques. So there's part of my muscles that have to hold me up this way. A lot of times when we think about the stomach muscles, we think about the rectus abdominis. That's the muscle that comes down here that everybody thinks of. It crunches with the six-pack abs. Yes, it looks nice, but the functional muscles of our core are really more of our obliques and our transverse abdominis. And we don't get that from crunches. We get that from side movements, twisting. Now, I don't suggest twisting a lot, but as an exercise to be able to turn with resistance very slowly, what you're going to do is And this is actually in this month's Generations magazine, okay, actually the picture in it. And you're just doing external rotations. So chin is back, it's not like this, it's back, shoulders back, and you just do external rotations. You can actually do wall angels or presses, again, with the external rotations coming up. So what that's doing is that's strengthening your core. You're not going down so far that it's causing knee pain. And so you're strengthening your legs, stomach, back, arms, extra. So it's a good total body exercise that you can do. So you start out with 20 of them, go up to 50, keep going, do whatever ones that you feel. These bottles are really just there to pass the time as you're pushing against the wall, but it also has a purpose for the external rotations. So, total body exercises are what we really like to promote. When you go to a gym, a lot of those machines are what we call unilateral, right? They're just one-way motion. But in everyday life, most of our movements are very multiplanar, right? So we need to train the body to function in those different planes. And so that's why it's really important that we use all those muscles. Another group activity, which I always teach, and I have pictures up there as well, are the squats. Okay? This is kind of a modified squat for people. You've seen like those weightlifters. You see when they're doing those deadlifts, they get into kind of that sumo position, right? And then they get there and they stand up, right? Well, what would happen if their knees were way out with the bar that's coming up? They'd knock their knees, right? So you see their butts go way back and they have to jerk up. So they're using their big glute muscles. The gluteus muscles are one of the largest muscles in the body, but because we sit and they get stretched out so much, we rarely use them. In fact, some people, I tell them, okay, tighten up your glutes, tighten up your butt muscles. They can't even tighten them up. We have to get them into a position to actually contract it. But these are the muscles that actually hold your body up, okay, because they're attached to the low back. So it actually helps to hold your spine in an erect position if it's actually working. The gluteus medius also helps to abduct the legs so that your foot can clear the floor. So it lifts it up a little so that you can bring your foot forward without your foot stuttering, right, hitting the floor. Because sometimes we don't always pick up our foot completely, right? So that's why you get that kind of pain here when you walk too much, because that muscle doesn't get used a lot. So we want to be able to strengthen our glutes. Now, squats aren't the best for strengthening the glutes, but they're a good way of at least engaging them partially. The other reason why I like squats is because, watch when I do this, all right? Most people, when they think of squats, like if I was going to pick up this, you know how you teach your body mechanics, you think, okay, protect your back, right? Bend your knees. So if I was going to pick up a box, this is how I'm supposed to do it, right? And pick it up and come up. Does that look about right, what I'm supposed to do? Okay, now in this position, what do you see with my knees? They're really bent, right? In this position, let's all get down in that position. Let's get down. You tell me, what does it feel like on your knee? Just don't have to go all the way down. Just go down as far as you feel comfortable. How do your knees feel? Tight, sore, compression, not comfortable, right? Okay, let's come back up again. Okay, you can kind of feel it's not a real comfortable position for your knees. Now watch, if I were to do it in a modified squat, I can get just as far down, right? But look at my knees. Are they as bent? No. But it's just not a normal position that people get into. So we teach people squats where you stand in front of your chair and just start to think about, put your hands in front of you so you've got a little bit of counterbalance, and then push the butt back like you're pushing it back towards the chair. Don't let your knees come in front of your toes. The weight should be on your heels. So push back, there you go. If you feel like you're going to lose your balance, then just hold it there, squeeze your butt. Okay, you got to go back a little bit more.
No, you can't do that.
Okay.
So, yeah, so right now what you're doing is you're bending your knees. You see how your knees are coming forward? So don't have to go down as far. Go ahead and stand up again. Okay. So I want you to push your butt back. Push that butt back. There you go. Keep pushing it back. Keep pushing it back. Feel the weight on your heels. There you go. Now hold that. That's what it is. See? You feel that all the pressure goes off your knees, right? You hardly feel it in your knees. All the weight should be practically on your heels. And if you practice that enough, you can get down pretty low and touch the ground without bending your knees very much. Okay? So, again, it's pushing the butt. Okay, you're still going forward. So, there. There you go. Okay? And then if you tighten up your stomach muscles, your back muscles, squeeze those glutes as you come down, keep your head in line with your shoulders. So you don't want your head way up because that's going to strain your neck. And you just try that. Keep your knees in. Don't let your knees fall out. Keep them in line with your toes. And come down. And then tight, sore, compression, not comfortable, right? Okay, let's come back up again. Okay, and you can kind of feel it's not a real comfortable position for your knees. Now watch. If I were to do it in a modified squat, I can get just as far down, right? But look at my knees. Are they as bent? No. But it's just not a normal position that people get into. So we teach people squats where you stand in front of your chair and just start to think about, put your hands in front of you so you got a little bit of counterbalance, and then push the butt back like you're pushing it back towards the chair. Don't let your knees come in front of your toes. The weight should be on your heels. So push back. There you go. If you feel like you're going to lose your balance, then just hold it there, squeeze your butt. Okay, you got to go back a little bit more.
You can't do that. Okay.
So, yeah, so right now what you're doing is you're bending your knees. You see how your knees are coming forward? So don't have to go down as far. Go ahead and stand up again. Okay. So I want you to push your butt back. Push that butt back. There you go. Keep pushing it back. Keep pushing it back. Feel the weight on your heels. There you go. Now hold that. That's what it is. See, you feel that all the pressure goes off your knees, right? You hardly feel it in your knees. All the weight should be practically on your heels. And if you practice that enough, you can get down pretty low and touch the ground without bending your knees very much. Okay? So, again, it's pushing the butt. Okay, you're still going forward. So, there you go.
That's it.
Okay? And then if you tighten up your stomach muscles, your back muscles, squeeze those glutes as you come down, keep your head in line with your shoulders so you don't want your head way up because that's going to strain your neck. And you just try that. Keep your knees in, don't let your knees fall out, keep them in line with your toes, and come down, and then push yourself up. So if you practice that a bunch of times before you sit down, let's say you went to the bathroom and you came back to watch TV, or sit in the living room, just do that 5 times. Okay?
You gotta sit down.
Okay, no, you're doing this. Your knees are going up and down. You really need to push that butt back. Push it back. Can you wiggle your toes? Okay, you gotta be able to wiggle your toes. Good. Okay, that's more like it. You can't get up from that position, then what I tell people to do is an eccentric contraction. So you go down as far as you can, and then just let yourself drop. Slowly, controlled. Because an eccentric contraction gets good muscle activation as well, until you can get it strong enough where you can actually get lower and hold it and push yourself back up. Okay. So when somebody just bends your knee, does it crackle as well, where you're not doing it?
Usually, when I can't squat. So once I get down to a certain point, it kind of locks, then it goes, and it just like when you crack the knuckles or something,
Yeah.
and that's what people.
Yeah. So
So I kind of go to Japan to go use those squat bars.
yeah. If you have a special condition, so that would have to be evaluated, and exercise is really just, because what happens is, especially when you start to lose that joint, you start to compensate for that movement that you don't have, and you don't want to actually use those muscles around it because it's sore, so you stop that movement. Those muscles get weak, so when you do have a knee replacement, then you're way worse off because now you've had surgery that's kind of cut through. You've got to strengthen those knees. It's a lot harder. So the people that do really well are the people that actually get into a strengthening program to exercise their knees and get them strong first, the muscles surrounding the knees, before you have your surgery, instead of waiting till afterwards. Because afterwards, you already traumatized your knees, and now to strengthen them is really hard. It's painful and difficult. Okay. Any other questions? I know you said
You have
40.
some time. You have some time.
Okay.
Yeah, you should.
Okay, so what I wanted to do was, if you don't have any questions, then I wanted to kind of just do a few more exercises with you. So one of the things that I like to do is just getting started. So remember I told you just move, right? So one of the things that you can do is just do a stretch when you're getting up in the morning. We call them good mornings. You know, it's just go ahead and reach up and just move around. Bring your arms up, stretch. Feel both arms go around. You can feel your body. You can feel all the muscles, right? You're stretching. So really reach up hard, reach back. Kind of feels good, doesn't it, to kind of just stretch everything out? You didn't realize you were so tight, huh?
Just all crack.
So that just kind of gets all of our muscles warming up in our upper body, right? Good. Then for your feet, what you can do is, let's just start with a tapping movement. Just sitting up straight, okay? What's that posture that you need to keep in your low back? So you got to sit forward a little bit. Sit forward a little. Hold yourself up tall. Nice. Shoulders balanced if you can. Good. Feet flat. Knees tracking over your toes. Knees tracking over your toes. Good. Okay. Right there. Good. And then, yeah, you're good because your toes actually come out a little.
Okay.
So it's just, you want to make sure that this is
So you
tracking over.
cannot see your feet.
Okay, and then just lift your toes up. The reason this one is really good is as we get older, lots of times people lose that dorsiflexion. They can't pull their toes up. That gets weak. So when they walk, you see their foot just kind of doesn't
Drag.
lift all and it drags.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure that you keep those muscles strong. Good. Okay, then just so that we get the side muscles, just reach over to the side, stretch out that side of the body, really stretch. Good. And then stretch to the other side. Good. Now, hands at your side, okay? Now, let's bring yourself all the way over and grab the back of the chair if you can. So if you're going to your left, you're going to grab the chair with your right arm. Other arm.
That one, yep.
Yeah, grab it.
The hard one.
Yeah, and pull. Just try to grab the chair, and there you go. So this again is for thoracic rotation. We lots of times get really stiff through our upper back. So you want to turn and hold. And then turn to the other side. The whole body, really pull. There you go. Good. So if you feel a little stiff doing that, you know that you've lost some motion in your spine, okay? So you just want to kind of stretch that out. Okay? Good. Then the other thing to prep yourself for walking for people is just kind of the marching in place. Bring those knees up again, but when you bring them up, try to hold yourself up straight. It's not this. Okay, it's bringing those knees up. Your body stays steady. Okay, pull in the stomach. There you go. Try to keep those knees straight, not in. Keep them straight forward. Keep those feet in alignment. Okay, good. Nice. So again, that's just a good way to kind of get yourself warmed up before you get moving. Okay. If you get behind your chairs, or actually, wait, let's do one more in the seated position. Seated leg raises. So again, this is just getting our muscles warmed up. So we use the muscles that are going out. Now let's stretch it out. And the other side. And up. And up. Keep your body straight. Sit up nice and tall. Can't cheat and lean back in the chair. Sit up nice and tall. Hold it. So it's not easy, right? Everyone kind of wants to sit down. Hold yourself up. Straighten that knee out. Good. Okay, now, a good stretch for you. If you sit a lot, the other thing I like to teach people to do is put one foot on top of your knee. Okay, sit up nice and tall. Okay? You're going to feel that kind of right through here. It's tight, right? Yeah, it's not easy to do. So that's where, when you're watching TV or sitting and listening to someone talk, good to sit like this, because what you're doing is you're stretching out those hip muscles. Okay? You don't have to think about it, because you're doing something else. Now, if you have to do it as a stretch and count, 2 minutes, feels like forever. But if you just sit like that when you're maybe eating, at a meal, just pull that leg up, but make sure that you're straight. Okay? And that's okay if eventually you kind of come down, then switch legs, do the other side. One leg is usually worse than the other. Can you do the other side? Do you guys have one leg that's worse than the other?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stretch it out. And again, the reason why you want to keep those muscles limber is because if they start to get tight, they're just going to keep getting tighter if you don't stretch, right? Because the tighter they get, the less likely you're going to be able to get them into a lengthened position, and they're just going to keep getting tighter. So you want to start now and keep them mobile. Do what you can to keep them stretched out. Okay? And then just watch your knees to make sure that when you come up, yeah, good. Okay? All right. Then another exercise that's really good is standing behind your chair. So some of you can probably do this without it. If you've got good balance, you can stand in front of your chair. But if you think your balance is a little compromised, I would say go behind and then just go up on your toes and down. Because when you walk, you got to push off with your toes. So this is an important muscle group to exercise. Up on the toes, again. Try not to lock your knees, keep them loose, but go up and down. Okay, good. So you're going to do about 20 of those. Keep yourself all in alignment. Try not to lean forward or backwards. Try to keep yourself just even. There you go. Okay, and then remember, when you're at the counter, it's a good time to just practice. You're doing the dishes, brushing your teeth, stand on one leg while you're doing it, and stand on the other. So let's try and stand on one leg. How are you doing? Can you pick up your leg? Yeah, so if you, hold on. You can hold on to this, okay? No, put your hands in the center. Okay, try. Oh, no, up front. Yeah, up front. There you go. Oh! Okay, so you're pretty good. Yeah. So if it feels a little unsteady, like you look pretty good, but if it feels unsteady, then you know it's something that you'd want to practice. If you feel pretty solid, then the next thing to do is to see if you can actually move in and out. Okay? So for those of you with balance issues, don't do this. But, you can practice going in and out. Okay? If you really want to challenge yourself, these are pads that you can buy. It just gives you a little bit of a give. So in your bare feet, you can stand on it. And this is a small one, so I would recommend buying the wider ones. And then doing your squat on this. So you've seen the Bosu balls, those half balls. Some people do it on those, but I wouldn't recommend it for you guys right now. But you can get on a pad because it's a little bit of give, so it gives you a little instability, so it really starts to recruit all your muscle groups. So you can do your squats in there, you can do your single leg stands on there, if you need a little bit more of a challenge. Okay? Okay, so just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a feel for some of the things that are really easy to do. Like I said, the most important thing is just move. 30 minutes goes by, get up and move around. Do one of these things that we've done today just to get your body going. So your metabolism doesn't slow down, you process your blood sugars more efficiently, doesn't overtax the pancreas, and hopefully decreases your mortality rate. Okay, any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about sitting down, properly and on the exercise. What about sleeping? I notice sometimes in the morning when I get up, my body all stiff,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't feel right.
So
Is it
There-
a proper way of sleeping or something?
sleeping is just like sitting and standing. You want to sleep in a position that's going to support all the normal curves of your back.
Okay, which is,
So, for some people, you can do it with on your side positioning, so long as you've got the type of bed that kind of can support it. But on your side, you know that sometimes, depending on the kind of bed you have, one side's going to cave in and you're going to have that curve. The best position, they always say, is usually kind of on your back with supports. But sometimes people feel more comfortable on their side. The thing that's bad about sleeping on your side is you got to watch your shoulder position as well, because your shoulder typically has to come forward because you can't sleep right on it. So then again, you're getting that rounding into the shoulder. So, if you do tend to like to sleep on your side, then I do recommend trying to learn to alternate, but you're not always on one side. Think in terms of the pillow, keeping your neck, so if I'm lying sideways like this, that my pillow is not pushing my neck up or hanging down, that it's kind of right in alignment with my spine.
you have good support.
Yeah, so get that support. If you're feeling stiff, that may just be a normal part of aging, that, like I said, when you're sedentary for a long period of time, the fluids are going to stiffen up or get more viscous. They need to be warmed up. So you just need to warm yourself up before you take that first step, just start to move.
Okay.
And some of these exercises you can do on the bed as well.
Yeah, definitely. The one that I showed you with your knee.
Definitely.
So one good exercise to activate your glutes is what we call glute bridges. So again, I recommend that you do it with your hands facing up, so you're facilitating the scapular retraction, pushing your shoulder blades together, and the external rotation, and then push up and try to really push your hips up and hold. So you see, I'm getting an alignment. It's all straight through here. If you do that, try it, your butt's going to start to burn. Okay? And the next day, your butt may be sore, which means that you did the good thing. You were exercising the right muscles, because we don't use those butt muscles. But that's a good one. The figure 4 that you were doing seated, you can also do lying down and pull it. So if it's hard for you to get up and get your knee up, you can also do this, and that can also stretch out these muscles here. The leg raises, like you said, you can always go up, pull it back. A good one for the external obliques, I do not recommend crunches to anybody. You should never be doing crunches. But if you do want to do some type of pure abdominal work, and you actually can do it on a bed or something, then what I usually recommend is, I recommend people getting a towel, putting it behind their neck, like this. Grab it on either side, okay, lying down, and then do those kind of bicycles where, so you see how my head's, I'm pulling up, and I'm actually pushing back so my neck can stay in alignment, and then I'm going across. So what I'm doing is I'm exercising those obliques. Those are really good core muscles to strengthen. I guarantee you, when you start to do it, you can't do too many starting out, but work up to, 20, 40, 60, 100. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate your time, and pass the information on to others so that they're aware. They got to get up and move.
Hand for Debbie, thank you so much.
Debbie Morikawa.
Morikawa.
Yeah.
So she actually had this on the table. I think it's better just to be proactive. You can just take one and pass it down. This is Debbie's information. So she does do consultations. She helps people individually or in groups. She's a really good trainer.
Well, I'm not a trainer.
Sorry.
Yeah, but our company does training.
Yeah.
I do all the initial assessments, and so I will do that postural assessment with you one-on-one and make
You
recommendations.
did say your background is OT?
My degree's in occupational therapy, and I practiced OT for about 5 years. Then I went into long-term care for about 10 years, and then I've been in all the fields after that. But I taught body mechanics and posture since the time I came out of school, so over 45 years.
So There's also some great information she brought with her. This is a fall risk assessment. This is her article she wrote on the squat. And then different the hazards of sitting. So really good information you may want to pick up before you leave. But as usual, we do want to get your feedback on our class. So Andrew's going to pass out a survey. And we're going to pull one lucky winner for a Long's gift card today. So if you can just give us your feedback, anything you want to suggest or compliment Debbie on, please write that down as well. And if there's any other classes that you recommend, please let us know. So I'll have you fill it out for a few minutes.
I just would like for overall.
Sure.